As homeschool moms, we are always looking for new, good, wholesome, clean books to read aloud with our kids. So today I'm going to share some of my childhood favorites with you. Welcome. Thanks for joining me today. So today's video is part of a collaboration hosted by Davina at Calm in the Chaos and Shauna at Homegrown Homeschool. Please check out their channels below. I'll put a link to their channels in my description, as well as the link to the playlist where other homeschool moms are going to be sharing some of their favorite read alouds for whatever ages they choose, whatever genres. But check those out to get some good ideas. So like I said, these books that I'm going to be sharing today are some of the favorites that I remember from growing up. As such, there's not a specific age range that I'm going to be showing books for. It's going to be kind of a smattering. And I also don't really know what ages to put them into because I don't really remember what ages I was when they were read to me. And I was an advanced reader and I advanced in general. And so I may have enjoyed some more mature books at younger ages. So I don't really know what age range they cater to, but they're kind of a mix. I would say these are all great for family reads. And a lot of them are just books that I remember reading as a family in the evening. So great, enjoyed by multiple ages, I would say. And then some of them are also books that I remember my older siblings reading to me. There was a bit of an age gap between me and some of my older siblings, and I remember them reading to me and they being so enjoyable. So I want to share these with you. Some of them you may know about, some you may not, but I hope you get some great ideas. So first, one of my favorites, and this is great for boys and girls. I think it could be easily enjoyed by both. It's called Men of Iron by Howard Pyle. And this is a story of a young boy in the time of knights and ladies growing up and becoming a knight to regain his family's honor. And it's good. It's got adventures. It's got some action, so good for young children or for young boys. But it's also really good in that the characters are strong and he learns to become a good man. And he has, I feel like the morals and characters are really good and it's written very well, enjoyable. I think this is one the whole family could enjoy, both boys and girls together. And within a variety of ages. Again, I don't know what ages to classify these as, but I would recommend checking it out. Another one, which is again kind of in the era of knights and ladies, but a little bit more on the fairy tale side, kings and queens, would be The Ordinary Princess. And this one I remember my older sister reading to me and loving. It is so cute. It's short and sweet. And it's about a princess who's born with beautiful princesses. Her other sisters are gorgeous, perfect fairy tale princesses. They have all the fairy tale charm and beauty. And she is born and her fairy godmother gifts her ordinary. She will be an ordinary princess. And her father and mother are distraught and she grows up, no looks to speak of. She's not perfectly charming. She gets clumsy sometimes. She's just very ordinary and loves ordinary life. And so it's her story how she runs away into the forest after a while because she doesn't fit into the mold and finds herself as an ordinary person and then ends up falling in love with another ordinary man who ends up being Prince Charming. And she discovers that he's actually king of a palace. So she goes home and they pretend they've never met. They get married and live happily ever after. But it's really cute and sweet and simple. Another good just family read, and you may have read it, is Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And this one, if you've only seen the movies, read the books. Books are always so much better, and I have a couple in here that I feel like the movies just don't do justice to. And not that there weren't some good movies made of this, but this is a great, great book, and I feel like the movies just never, ever do justice to it. So I would recommend this one. And if you're not familiar with the story, Charlie is a very poor boy in a poor family who doesn't get chocolate, even though he loves it. And there's a chocolate factory and he always smells the chocolate. And one day he wins the golden ticket to go tour the chocolate factory. And I won't spoil the whole book for you, but it's well written and it's just a good classic story. Another one, which is great for the family, is The Trumpet of the Swan. And this is about a young swan who is born without any voice. He cannot trumpet like everyone else in his family. And so he'll never be able to find a mate and live happily. Anyhow, the swan ends up growing up and deciding he wants to learn how to trumpet. And so he goes and he gets a trumpet and he learns how to use his trumpet. And it's his fun story. He meets the boy who helps him and he ends up being seen by people who see this swan playing a trumpet and he becomes famous. Anyhow, it's just cute, sweet, an easy read and just a good one for the family. Another one, which I don't have the physical book, so I'm going to put a picture of it up here, is Henry Reed. And this is great for young boys, but I would say, I mean, I wasn't a young boy and I have fond memories of this book. So um, it is a young boy, I want to say like 12, if I remember right, in that age range, who the first one, it's a series actually, but the first one, he goes to live with his uncle and he's quirky and he ends up setting up his own business with a young girl in the neighborhood. And they're funny. He has the way it's written is with a really dry sense of humor, so adults can actually enjoy it because it's written from the perspective of the boy who never gets any of the jokes. But there's always humor and he just doesn't get it. And so funny things are always happening, accidents are happening, and it's just his time, his vacation away with this, girl in the neighborhood. They just become pals and start a business together and all their fun happenings. There is a series and I like them all, but that's just the first one. So a good fun read for young boys and girls, or as a family, because like I said, actually the humor is such that I think adults could enjoy it. Another one that I don't have on hand, I do have it, but I don't know where it is. So I'll put the picture up here as well, is The Family Nobody Wanted. And this is one of my favorite books. It is, I believe it's actually based on a true story, but it's about a couple who can't have kids. And he's a pastor and young wife, they can't have kids, and she just wants to have a baby so bad. So she decides to try adopting. But they are in line. They can't get a baby because there's so many people who want to adopt and they don't have the finances to be the first one in line because they don't have the greatest situation. Their parsonage is small. And so she starts adopting children who are multi-races when that was not a thing to do. People didn't want that. And so she starts adopting the babies who nobody would adopt. And so initially they have a really hard time getting it because they don't want to place a baby who's a different ethnicity with a white family, but eventually she gets a couple, and so then they become known as this family who adopts these babies, and so the orphanages want them to take more. And so it's her story of, and it's humorous. She writes so well. It's so humorous. It's light. And I mean, there's some serious tones in there, but it's just such a good read, and their adventures as family and their growing pains, and they end up with 12 children, all different races, all mixed races, and just kind of they become famous, and the funny things that happen with that. And it's just really a good read. And so I would highly recommend that if you haven't heard of it. Another one that I remember being read to is Tiger and Tom and Other Stories for Boys. And again, I'm not a boy, but these are stories about boys. They're short stories, and they are all with an excellent moral or teaching. And that makes it sound really boring or dry, but they're actually well written. And it's definitely one that I will read with my girls and boys alike, because I think they actually do have some really good points. Their stories have really good points. Really good conversations could be had with this book. And it's just old-fashioned. So if you like old-fashioned stories with a moral, but that are well written, this is a good one. Another one is 8 Cousins by Louisa May Alcott. And this one I remember my older sister reading to me. And it's a sweet story and probably aimed at girls, but I would say boys could enjoy this too. So it's a girl who, her father dies. Her mother had died long ago, and she goes to live with her aunts who don't understand her. And she's sad, and she ends up finding out that she lives on this hill where she has 7 aunts and 7 cousins, and they're all boys. And she's overwhelmed, but it's her story of, and then her uncle, who is her guardian, comes to find her, and he's fun, and he wants to make her healthy and wholesome because she's become like this kind of sad, morbid, unhealthy little girl. And so it's just the story. It's the romps she has with her cousins and how she learns about her uncle and the quirky things that he tries on her to make her grow healthy and happy again. And it's sweet and cute and wholesome, and just a good family. Another one, which I'll throw up here, is Cheaper by the Dozen. And this might be maybe geared toward a little bit of an older age. But if all you've seen is a movie, don't judge the books by the movies, because the books are so well written. And why I say it might be a little bit older is I think towards the end of the book, the girls are old enough to start dating and stuff like that. So it brings in some of their stories. Nothing inappropriate, but humor. So depending on where you draw that line with your kids and kind of what they understand, that would be why I would gear it a little bit older. But it's funny, it's quirky, it's so well written. And so the family who has 12 kids, and the dad always says everything's cheaper by the dozen, and he is such a character. And I understand why movies don't do him justice, because I don't know if you could put that character on screen and not dislike it, but in the book you like him. And so I would recommend that book. Another one is Homer Price. And this one, I think when I think of it in similar terms to the other book that I mentioned, Henry Reed, about the young boy and his adventures. It's written very differently, but it's another young boy around 12ish, I'm guessing. I'm trying to remember. And it's his adventures. It's written a little bit less chronologically. Like the first book was written like his journal, and he's talking to you through his days. This one's more of stories that happen to the same boy in the same town with the same people, but less of like a plot throughout, more individual stories, but they're really fun and quirky. The art is great. One of the stories, he ends up helping his local donut shop. He takes over for a time, and he's going to make the batch of donuts. And this woman who's rich comes in while he's making them, and she's like, "Oh, this looks like so much fun. I'm going to help." So she pulls up her mother's donut recipe and makes this giant batch of donuts. And they put it in the donut machine, and it starts making it. And they made so much donuts that they can't sell them fast enough. So by the time this story is towards the middle or end, there are pictures of donuts piling the counters, piling the floors, like donuts everywhere. And then the woman comes back and says, "I've lost my bracelet." And they realize it's in one of the donuts. And so they start selling donuts for super cheap, just trying to find her diamond bracelet. And in the end, somebody bites a donut and they've got her diamond bracelet. And it's cute and quirky, and just the stories are like that. And I just have really good memories of reading them as a family. Another one is The Phantom Tollbooth. And again, this one might be not older, but not really young children, just because I don't know how else to describe this book other than to say it's just a giant play on words. So if your child doesn't understand words and like synonyms and the humor in that, puns, that kind of thing, then they might not get this. But it's supposed to be like a fairy tale-esque, not even fairy tale, but a boy ends up in kind of fairy tale land where everything is based off words, and words aren't just words, but they are actual things and have actual, I don't even know how to identify how to describe it, but it's so quirky and so humorous. So if you enjoy words and your child enjoys words and you kind of enjoy fairy tale-esque / adventure, but not, I'm not describing it well at all. I would just recommend looking this up and seeing if you're interested. Your library may have it, and it's humorous, and I enjoy it. And then I feel like Winnie the Pooh has to be in any read alouds list for young and old. And this is totally an all family read. Now, younger children love it, but the reason I say this is an all family read, if you have not read the books and all you've watched is the shows, again, the books are so well written. The books are written as a tale to a child about their favorite stuffed animals. So it's a child's story, but his humor is so grown up humor. And so he has humor written throughout that your child will not get and you will think is hilarious. Just the way it's written, it's just written in such a childish manner that it's so funny. And so these are ones that I love listening to while having them read out loud still. And so I would say these are a great all family read. And then another one, which I don't have, but I thoroughly remember enjoying with my brother, it's called Hank the Cowdog. And these I would recommend, if you're going to get them, get the audiobooks. And the reason I say this is the author was the one who did the voice for the audiobooks, and he did such a phenomenal job. The voices, they come alive and they have characters, and I can still picture the voices in my mind of this one. But it's a cow dog on a ranch. He's head of ranch security, and he's a conceited, a foolish dog who thinks he's the best. And so it's written from his perspective, and the humor is always against him, but he doesn't get it ever. And his sidekicks, and he's always bickering with the cat, but he has his sidekick Drover, who's another cow dog on the farm. And it's him always trying to find out the mysteries that's going on the farm, or what's going on. It's his problems in his day-to-day life. And there are so many of them. But if your young boy enjoys it, or girl, I would say they're geared more towards boys, but either one would enjoy it. The audiobooks are great, fun reads for them. And then I have two more series that I just feel like kind of has to make it on the list for any read alouds. And so you have most likely seen these or read them, but the Little House on the Prairie series, such a good series. Again, if you have only seen the show, do not judge the books by the show. The books are so well written. These are good read alouds for, I would say, pretty much all ages. As soon as your child is old enough to enjoy this, they can enjoy these, but then they're also enjoyable, I would say, all the way up through adulthood. I would still read this series and enjoy them. They are well written, not heavy, light, but they also give a good idea of what pioneering life would have been, I feel like, in a light way. She covers it very gently. Again, whole family. And then I would say, if you think of this series as a series for girls, don't. This is not just for girls. It's not written in a girly fashion. Maybe the last book but not really. And if you have a young boy who you want to see if they enjoy this style, then start with her Farmer Boy, because this is the one that she wrote about her husband when he was young. So it's written from a boy's perspective of his life on the farm. And so this is a great one to start with for boys. See if they enjoy it. And then you can always back into the series with him for the beginning from her life on the kind of the pioneering life with her. But great, great books if you have not read them. And then the last ones I want to mention are the Chronicles of Narnia. And again, I don't know where to put this age range. It's not going to be for your youngest children, obviously. But these are wonderful reads. Great conversations. I remember my older sister reading several of these to me. And they're classic for a reason. And they do have great allegorical aspects to them. So like I said, depending on your age of your child, they do have some great conversations. But he's just such a wordsmith. C.S. Lewis is such a wordsmith, and they're great fantasy that's completely clean and Christian. And that's hard to find. It's hard to find when they're well written, I guess. So I think these are excellent reads for you as a family if your children enjoy those kind of books. So I don't know how many that is, but it's a few. Hopefully you get some ideas. If you enjoy this content, please like and subscribe just so I know that you're enjoying it. Helps give my channel a boost. And if you have any questions on any of these, please go ahead and ask me down below in the comments. I'd be happy to give you a little more information if I can. Or if you have some read alouds that you would recommend for me, please put them down below. I love books. I want my children to love books and love reading. And so I would love any recommendations that you have.